World Cup warm-ups can sometimes feel a bit like Groundhog Day. You got the same teams playing each other one week onto the next. But listen, if Scotland and France produce the same quality that they did in the first game, nobody's going to care. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. France v Scotland. It's at the Stade Geoffroy Guichard in Saint Etienne. It's on Saturday, the 12th of August, and kickoff is 8:05 BST. So we'll have a quick look at the two teams, starting with the home team, France. So front row is by Marchand, Al-Dahiri. Second row, Woki and Flamand. Back row, Monahan, Aldrit and Olibon. Halfbacks, Dupont and Entamac. Left wing, Villiers. Centres, Dante and Fiku. Right wings, Panot. And fullback is Ramos. On the bench then we have Bougarit, Gross, Antonio, Verhey, Charleroi, MacLeod, Lusu, and Biel Biari. And he actually had a great game last week as well. I think that was his debut, right? Then onto the Scotland team. So fullback, Blair Kinghorn, right wing, Kyle Stain, centres, Hugh Jones and Sione Tuipulotu, left wing, Duhan van der Merwe, halfbacks, Finn Russell and Andy Price, the front row, Pierre Schumann, George Turner and WP Nell, second row, Richie Gray and Grant Kilchrist, the back row, Jamie Ritchie, Rory Darge and Jack Dempsey, on the bench then, Stuart McNally, Rory Sutherland, Javan Sebastian, Scott Cummings, Sam Skinner, Josh Bayless, George Horn and Ollie Smith. So you see straight away two very strong picks there, very close to full strength, if not full strength, from the two teams as well. They played last week, as I said, it was very different. Scotland were about maybe a 1.5 team, and France had some starters in there, maybe a 1.5, maybe not quite a second team, but a lot of young players in there all the same. And it was final score 25-21 to Scotland, but it was France who got the lead with all those young, experienced players pulling out a big lead. But then Scotland came back at them in the second half, and talked about in my video, and also just chatting in the comments as well, about the fact that I'm so jealous of the way Scotland are able to actually peg teams back like this. Now, the flip side is that they tend, not always, but to give teams a bit of a lead as well, but they did have the ability to bring it back. Whereas Ireland tried to keep the game tight early on and then just stretch away themselves and never really often have to chase down a game. But when they do, they don't seem to be able to. So, it's going to be interesting to see this week now, where it looks like, pretty much very close to full strength 15s going head to head, how that's actually going to, turn out. Let's have a closer look at the French team first. So by Marchand and Al-Dahiri, speaks first choice to me in that front row there. Then Woki and Flamand as well. Woki was out for the Six Nations, but definitely a starter when fit for France. And then the pack there as well, I think Aldrit and Olibon you'd have in your starting team, and Bunahan is showing that he maybe would belong there as well. Dupont and Entamac, absolutely starters. Like Dupont, I think, of this generation of players, he's probably the best player that in the world. There are others who will come up, like Josh van der Fleer last year, who will come up to that level. But I think Dupont just is consistently at the level where, not many people would not have him in their top three players in the world over the last, at any moment, I think over the last maybe 4 or 5 years or so, and God knows how many years into the future as well. He's just that good and that special. Like other players will dip up and down, be top 3, be even number 1, and then not even make the top 20 maybe a year or two later. So, but his consistency and his ability is just amazing. Entamac, I think if there was no Dupont, he might be the star of that back line. He's a very special player as well. Then look at the other players they have there, like Villiers and Pernod on the wings. Really good. Like, and then they had like we saw last week, young players getting a chance and showing that they can do it on the wing as well. And then Dumortier during the Six Nations as well, showing that, like, he's a test animal as well. He can just come in and do a job too. So these two know that they need to produce because there's lots of talent behind them queuing up to take their spot. So they need to be delivering. Then centers like Dante and Ficou, like Ficou, is he possibly the best center in the world at the moment? I know you'd have others, in there, the likes of Bayoni, maybe Gary Ringrose, and a few others as well. But like Ficou has to be in with a shout on that as well. Dante, he gives you that threat at the breakdown, and he can bust tackles, and he can give France something different as well there in the centres of the field. Ramos, great at fullback as well, and then the fact that he's got very solid from the tee too, and it just looks to me like that is just a full strength France team. And there's still quality players who will push for starting spots, but you wouldn't be surprised to see that as a team that maybe started against the All Blacks. On the bench then, like, you got the likes of Bougari, Gross and Antonio, another quality front row to come on to replace the one that's already starting. Like, there's not much drop really in quality when they come on. Antonio, you worry about him kind of with fitness and stuff, but if he's coming on late and players are tired, like, he really can make impact with his carries. Then you got Verhey. I don't know that much about him, honestly. Charleroi, like, we've seen him a bit, definitely can operate at this level. MacLeod, maybe for another nation he would be an automatic starter for a World Cup squad. But you look at a lot of the squads actually, and you see that generally the depth in the back row is deeper than any other position, mainly because players are like, 6.5s or 7.5s where they can play two positions. But still, you just look at the amount of quality, and you think that, I think when you look at the players who aren't going to go to the World Cup, the amount of back row quality that will be left out is going to be astounding. I think, in the backs then, so like, you got, but MacLeod as well, the fact that he can play on the wing, I think is a big thing for them too, that, and I think that versatility means that he's going to be kind of, involved in matchday 23s, I think, for France. But then you got, I don't know whether it's Lucy or Lusu, or I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but we've seen him come on for Dupont in the past. And the thing with France is, I've said it before, like, if Dupont gets injured, that's the one position where you really worry about. Like, in Ireland, we were obviously worried about the whole Sexton thing, and now we're actually dealing with that, and we're realizing that, hey, this Crowley guy is pretty good, and Byrne can, bring a game home as well. Now, when it gets to the heat of battle of the Rugby World Cup, maybe those stories will change slightly, and if things go well, you'll have people saying, "Oh, well, I always said that the understudies weren't that good." But at the moment, we're feeling kind of more confident than we were before. But France now, if Dupont goes down, like, who's coming in for him really? But then Biel Berry last week, that guy was just sensational, and I think he's kind of got that quality that Dumortier showed that he had in Six Nations, that just put him in any type of game and he's going to rise to the level of that game. And those are special players. I think he's one of those. Let's then have a closer look at the Scotland team. So, I don't know why, I talked about this before as well. Why can't we just standardize what way teams are laid out when they're given? Like, I don't care which way it is. I've no preference for one over the other. Like, or like there are multiple ways to actually do it. Other than there's like there's some French, there's some French, what is it? Like, website that orders the players by like number alphabetical, in that like it goes like 1, then 11, and then 12 or something stupid like that, or 1 or 10, then 1 and then 11, something weird, like, some weird sort order. But any other kind of standard order that people would see, like whether it's, straight 1 to 15, or it's like this one 15 to 9, 1 to 8, or it's 15 down to 1, or whatever. I don't care. Just somebody standardize it and say this is the way it's going to be from now on, and we can just kind of it's easier to compare in your head, I think, sides to sides. But anyway, let's get into the team. So we'll start with the forwards, because that's what we looked at in the French team first. So front row, you got Schoeman, Turner, and Pinel there. So I felt that George Turner was probably the discovery of the Six Nations for Scotland. I think like he had an impact early on, and then as Scotland's impact on the tournament kind of waned towards the end, so did his on the Scotland team. But still, I thought he still had a great tournament for them. Schoeman and Pinel, probably going to be like the backup props. Obviously, like Fagerson got his ban, and I think it's going to be 2 games, right? Because there's going to be 3, and then he has to do some kind of tackling seminar or whatever, and then it gets reduced to 2. So he'll be available for the World Cup and probably will be a starter. But Schoeman and Nell, like they've shown, as a front row together, these guys, they've shown that, they can do it off the bench, and even starting, they can do it as well in big games. Second row then, Gray and Gilchrist. I think that's probably going to be the starting second row for the Rugby World Cup. We thought before the Six Nations maybe it was going to be the Gray brothers both going together, but then we had that injury. But still, like, this is a really good locking partnership there. Jamie Ritchie, captain, had a fantastic Six Nations as well. Rory Darge, really coming into form now. Like he came back from injury, he showed form at the URC, and he's just built on that now through the warm games as well. Jack Dempsey, I think, kind of complements the two of them in the back row. Seems a very settled back row. I think Ritchie will definitely start in the World Cup. Darge and Dempsey, I think there's plenty of competition there, but you could certainly see them starting in games there as well. Onto the backs then. So the halfback duo, you got Ali Price and Finn Russell. Well, Finn Russell's definitely the starting 10 for the Rugby World Cup. Ali Price has a bit of competition there at 9, but again, you wouldn't be too upset if he was your starting 9. I think the rest of the back line then are almost the rest of the back line are starters for the Rugby World Cup. So Duhan van der Merwe, I think he's a shoe-in on the left wing. The centre combination then, Tuipulotu and Jones, definitely. We saw during the Six Nations, like, just that combination coming together and really showing like that, that they are combination, not just individually, but as a duo together. They just work so well together. I'd like to see a bit more of that in the warm games as well, to show that they still have that understanding and that spark together. Kyle Steyn, probably the one that I would say isn't, because Darcy Graham, you have to pick Darcy Graham. He's on such fantastic try scoring form that, but Kyle Steyn, again, another great player to have in there if Graham is not available. Blair Kinghorn, I think, is going to be the starting fullback, and it would have been whether Hogg was available or not. I think he'd surpassed him by then, and he gives you that second playmaker, option as well, which is really great for the way Scotland play. Onto the bench then, you got Stuart McAnally. I think, he's going to give you something off the bench there. I think he's going to have a fight to get to be involved, I think, in match day squads. But, once you get into, if he gets into the Rugby World Cup squad, once you get into that squad, I think then it's a case of, no holds barred. You've got the chance there, so just go for it. I think Rory Sutherland, and Javan Sebastian. So Sutherland, a bit more experience at this level. Sebastian, we'll have to see how he does, I think, in the warm-ups. Scott Cummings, he's already shown he can do it at this level. It's just the case that I don't think he's quite up there to be a starter. Kind of similar with Sam Skinner as well, and actually Josh Bayless. A lot of those maybe fighting out between themselves for inclusion in the squad and in maybe when they get there in match day 23s as well. George Horn, a decent off the bench. Again, I think that number 9 spot is up for grabs. And then you have Ollie Smith there, kind of as your utility cover. I'd say if Russell has to go up, Kinghorn will go into 10 and then Smith will probably go to fullback is, what I'm imagining there. I'm surprised though that they haven't given Ben Healy a run out in this one and actually put him on the bench. But I think because of the split that they went with, they decided that it was better to have Kinghorn. If Kinghorn was starting, they didn't really need another 10 involved, so it's a good way then to give Smith, I think, some game time too. So how do I think the game is going to go overall? Well, both much stronger sides than last week. I think not many people argue that France, the quality of the franchise has increased more than the Scotland side, because there were some quality, very quality and established players in the Scotland side last week, whereas France kind of went for more kind of youth and inexperience on their side. But still, these two teams, when they come together, there's always fireworks. I think that the fact that it's not Paris, it's in Saint Etienne, I think that's going to work in France's favour. I think they're very good at that, of moving these kind of games to kind of take pressure away from having to play. I know part of it is the fact that I think the stadium isn't available maybe at this stage, and that's why they moved it. But I think it's a good one anyway to have it down here. It takes a little bit of pressure off them. I think with that, I think France are going to sneak it, but Scotland are kind of in a similar position to Wales from last week, in that they've got that win last week, and now I think if you back that up with a really good performance and maybe a close loss, that's gonna be acceptable to show that progress is being made and players are getting the chance to show what they can do, and there won't be kind of any kind of dejectedness coming out of it. Obviously, again, you want to win all of your games, but still, I think with that, maybe a close loss. A win would be absolutely fantastic. Beating France 2 in a row will give them huge confidence, because they've pretty much got to do that in their pool, right? They've got to beat South Africa and they've got to beat Ireland. So it's 2 massive games that they're, to guarantee going through. You got to win both of those. Winning one will give you a chance, but then you're relying on other results kind of going your way. And there's no doubt they have the ability. Most people are already pegging the quarterfinals to be, New Zealand and France facing off between South Africa and Ireland, depending on who plays who, and that it's almost like for some people a done deal. But Scotland won't feel that, and as an Ireland fan, I don't feel that. I feel that they're a big threat in the group, or in the pool, sorry. And and I think as well, something to consider between the Scotland and the French team that are playing this week versus the England and Wales teams that are playing this week is, look how settled the French and the Scottish teams are. There are no real kind of big question marks over the important positions in the team now. Very settled. Even players who are maybe jostling for a position are jostling between being starters and being on the bench, and a lot of them are, you would feel, are interchangeable there too. Whereas with the England and Wales team, can anyone tell me what their best 15s are at the moment, or pick a 23 that's likely to start against their main rivals in their Rugby World Cup pools. I think you'd be hard pressed to do that right now. So, positives for, I think, France and Scotland going into this one and go further into the Rugby World Cup. As I said, I think France are just going to nick it by maybe a score.